year? Come on, new energy. I'm sure you had. Who had a great end of year so far? Wow! Qui a eu une très très belle fin d'année? Qui a eu la meilleure fin d'année? No? I had a wonderful end of the year. I went back home in Morocco, beautiful weather. Yeah, I know, I'm disgusting. Sorry. Well, the weather is beautiful today, so thanks for being so many with us tonight. Merci à vous tous d'avoir bravé le temps quand même qui est assez sympathique avec nous pour être avec nous aujourd'hui. Donc c'est vraiment très agréable de vous voir aussi nombreux. Il y a encore des places à l'avant. There are still a few spots in the front. So if you're in the back, feel free to walk towards the front, grab a seat. We are going to start in a few minutes. Unless you really want to... Yeah, we still have snacks if you're like hungry for a last minute snack. Yes, sir. Yes, madame. Tu veux une place? On va te trouver une place. Regarde, il y a une place de premier de la classe ou de première de la classe ici, ça te va? Is that fine? Otherwise, we have spots here as well if you want to sit here. Not yet? In a couple of weeks? We'll do that together? Wonderful. Wonderful. Awesome. So, yeah, actually we're going to get started on time. That's amazing. Who has been to a Montreal NewTech event before? Quite a few. Okay. Usually we start late. That's probably because I'm Moroccan or something like that. So, but well, we're getting to do better because now we have also Mexican on our teams and stuff, so they're upgrading the level. Some Canadian, yeah. Wonderful. Well, merci beaucoup. Écoutez, on va commencer. Le programme de la soirée est quand même assez pacté. Donc on va essayer de garder ça tight sur le temps pour vous donner l'occasion aussi de réseauter et de manger par la suite. So we had some snacks, some cheese that was lovely cut by our volunteers. And afterwards we'll have some food. So we'll try to keep it tight. If I run over time, I have my awesome colleagues in the front who are going to throw tomato at my face so that we can keep it going. Okay, so before getting started, I asked if people knew, who knows about Montreal NewTech? Okay, who knows about District 3? Come on, you're in District 3, you should all raise your hands. Didn't you Google it before getting in? Okay, so my name is Ilyas, I'm part of Montreal NewTech, we're a non-profit. We've been around since 2008, we've been organizing events, hackathons, career fairs, and a variety of other things. Our goal is really to help empower the community, the startup community, but also obviously like the tech community as the name stands. And for, anyway, I'm not going to do a whole history of it. I invite you to check us out online if you don't know us yet. If you do, well, thank you for being here with us still over and over. In the last couple of years, we started something new. We realized that, and I'll try to make it short, but if you want to chat with us, come on. Ah non, c'est correct. On peut discuter. We're a small family here, so it's fine. So we realized that there is so many amazing brains and power and engagement in a variety of fields, but they don't always get together. They don't always collaborate. They don't always get out of their bubbles. And what I mean by that is we know, or we are, or we encounter researchers, entrepreneurs, enterprises, and a variety of service providers and the people who help. But all those groups don't always collaborate together. And that's a shame because we believe that meaningful innovation, impactful innovation is at the crossroad of those fields. I'll pass the mic to our friends and we're going to have a little announcement, but just before passing the mic, I would love to know, who here is a student? To see if we're doing a proper job. Okay, who here is a researcher? Quite a few. Who here is an entrepreneur or an aspiring entrepreneur? Who here works in a larger company? Okay, who here hasn't been categorized? That's good. You're outside the box, I'm kidding. It's fine, I love that because that shows the diversity of talent and the diversity of participants that we were able to bring. And we weren't able to bring it by ourselves alone, but with our awesome partners, and that's why we love co-organizing events. So please give me a good round of applause to our friends of District 3 for a few words.
So hello everyone, thank you. Welcome to District 3. I'm just going to give you a brief introduction about what we do and invite you to a couple of things that are happening right now in Montreal. So we are an innovation hub and we're dedicated to collaboration, entrepreneurship. That's why we do events like this one. I just wanted to show you a couple of, here we are. Can we move to the next one? Perfect. So a couple of numbers and a couple of metrics that we're very proud of. So we've been around for about 6 years. During these 6 years, we have supported about 500 startups. Two things that I'm particularly proud of is that 42% of our startups have female co-founders, and 82%, thank you, there's one of them, and 82% of them are also immigrant co-founders. Next one, please. And we also have a huge life science community, so about 1/3 of the startups are in life sciences. Many of them are also intersect with artificial intelligence. You're going to hear from 3 of them tonight. And what is super exciting is that this number is growing because we have an exciting announcement that is going to come in the next slide. Not yet. Thank you. So there's 3 things I want you to remember and know about District 3. The first one is that you don't have to be associated with Concordia to be a member of our community. The second one is that we don't take any IP or equity from any of your ideas. All our services are completely for free. And the third thing is that all we ask from you is really hard work and commitment. That's all you need to succeed. And now let's move to the announcement. Thank you, Rosa. And is that this number of life science startups is going to be growing in the next couple of months because we are opening Montreal's first biotech accelerator. It's a space that will have lab and co-working space located at the Loyola campus. We're going to have space for about 20 different startups. This is really happening in the spring, out of the spring. We were visiting the facilities today. You can see the pictures. We're there. The labs are almost functional. I don't show you pictures from the outside because right now it looks horrible. It's all covered of snow and not ready to be showing pictures, but it's definitely going to be ready to start accepting startups very soon. We're going to be providing you with announcements about application process and so on in the next couple of weeks, so stay tuned. So that's all I had to say. If you have questions about the BioHub, District 3, or life sciences startups, thank you. I'm going to stay here during the networking. My email is anna.fernandez@d3center.ca. It's Anna with 1 N. If you do write 2 N's, it goes to a different Anna, so don't do that. And the last thing is that in case you have a startup or an idea but you're not ready to launch that yet, we also have a program for you. And I'm going to let my colleague Leila explain you about it.
Thank you, Anna. Bonjour à toutes et à tous. Hi everyone, my name is Leila. I am the coordinator of a new program, so it's the next slide. So it's a Quebec Scientific Entrepreneurship Program. This is an amazing initiative for all the scientists in Quebec that we are helping you through giving you tools and resources to turn your research into ventures and also having an impact on society. So for the next slide, please. So this program, so if you are a master student, PhD, postdoc, and even a scientist, a researcher in the lab, you are more than welcome to join. So it's open for all universities in Montreal, outside Montreal as well. And this initiative is supported by les Fonds de Recherche du Québec that are here with us today. So it's a free program, it's bilingual as well, and it's a 3-hour commitment per week. So basically it's 3 phases, so we can see it in the next slide. So these 3 phases is really to give you an idea about what is the entrepreneurship, what's, like the basic entrepreneurship for the discovery phase. And after that, for phase 2, we are going to the validation. So we are helping you to validate your scientific idea and to see if there is a market, if there is an opportunity in Canada or perhaps outside Canada as well. And the third phase, which is launch, we are helping you to create your startup or you can also learn about the amazing ecosystem of entrepreneurship that we have in Montreal and all the financing opportunities as well. And thanks to my talks, we have a prize to the best project, startup that are finishing the QCSE program. So today I'm very happy. I see a lot of people from QCSE. There is Kashi from Plakk that will presenting. We have also the amazing Azadeh VitalTracer that she will presenting after. So feel free to contact us and also to apply to our next cohort. The deadline is 31st of January, and you have all information on qcsc.ca. And of course, if you have any question, feel free to send me an email and to come to speak to me after that. So thank you so much, everyone, and have a very great night. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. It's okay, it's okay. Yeah, okay. Cool. The best opportunity, and honestly, who has been in the ecosystem for, I would say, like more than 3 years here? Who knows all the startup ecosystem? Oh wow, 2 people. All the others have raised millions of dollars and they are like on their yachts now. Just kidding. Who here knows of the ecosystem for less than a year? Or like what's going on in the start? Il n'y a pas de mal, hein. C'est pas comme le plus vieux gagne. Okay. Raise your hands, be proud. That's awesome, that's wonderful. Okay, cool. For the ones who has been around for less than a year, it's really amazing how the government, how incubators, accelerators, and a variety of supporters has been supporting actually the ecosystem. And we see programs such as tonight that was presented, and we'll see more and more. So if you have any questions or something like that, really feel free to come and ping us, whether the people that I'm going to show in a few or people at District 3, etc. Bon, j'ai parlé français, j'ai parlé anglais, et je sais pas à qui je m'adresse en fait. Who here... Non, je rigole. Qui parle juste français? Okay, who speaks only English? There is no bad thing, like you can raise, okay. Okay, so we'll do it in Franglish with a big hint or big pinch of English, okay. Bon, en attendant que l'écran arrête d'être bleu, so while waiting for the screen not to stay blue, which is a beautiful color, but I'd rather have something else on the screen, I would like to say thanks because we're starting a new year and we're having more and more programs within Montreal NewTech in partnership with a variety of players, and we wouldn't be able to be here without the support of a variety of players who have been supporting us, some for the last 10 years, some others for less than that. And, oh, it's back. Thank you. Mais je voudrais dire un grand merci d'abord au ministère de l'Économie et de l'Innovation qui nous supporte dans notre démarche de Creative Collisions. Donc l'idée derrière Creative Collisions, ou les collisions créatives, c'est un peu ce qu'on vient de dire sur mettre ensemble les chercheurs, les entrepreneurs et les entreprises avec l'écosystème de support pour voir qu'est-ce qui peut être fait ensemble et idéalement créer justement ces liens de confiance entre ces différents joueurs et ces liens de collaboration. So the idea behind Creative Collision, as we said earlier, is really about bringing researchers, entrepreneurs and enterprises together in a safe space where we can build trust, but also create this kind of relationship building that can move them forward and hopefully towards better collaboration and actual innovation and technology evolutions. So that's thanks notamment to the Ministry of Economy and Innovation, as well as the support of other organizations that are more private, such as like Desjardins with the Coopérathon. Who here knows Coopérathon? Just, okay, a little bit. Nice, good, doing a good job. As well as EY, Ernst & Young for people who are really old, but EY for people who are more recent here. And I think we have our friends Ramsey in the back. Ramsey with the beautiful glasses over there. So if you have any questions, whether it's around Shred or even for your own startup, etc., go and ping him afterwards. So we'll be able to eat later on thanks to him. And you can, if you're nice and stuff, maybe he will even invite you for lunch. So thank you. Oh, stop it. Wonderful. But this kind of event is also not being able, and I'll stop right there because Alejandro is going to kill me otherwise, is not going to happen just because someone here is in the front, but rather because of a variety of people who have been supporting and contributing and working within Montreal NewTech, District 3, and a variety of others. So I would just like to ask the volunteers, people at the door, just like to stand up and raise their hands. And I would like you to, and the people from Montreal NewTech team as well, come on, stand up, don't be shy. It's fine. And Harry, who used to be in Montreal NewTech, but we love him a lot, and people from District 3. So please give them a good round of applause to say thanks for all their hard work to get this event going. Because imagine we're January 23 and we're 140 people in the room in winter. So, and thanks so much to you who are actually here tonight, because it would be a little bit sad if we were just all by ourselves. Good, wonderful. So we'll get started. It's 6:20, it's not that bad. So I'll go through the program very, very quickly. So as we said earlier, it's a lot about like those kind of like collisions, knowledge, etc., etc. So we'll start with a little overview as well as a reverse pitch of 2 industry players. Then we'll have the startup pitching. Then we'll have a researcher presenting the research. And finally, we'll have a panel around this kind of collaboration that we're talking about. Sounds good?
Yeah.
Sounds good?
Yeah.
Yeah, I prefer that, way better. So we have my colleague here who has beautiful pancarte. So what is the red? The red means, I guess, like shut up.
Yeah.
Okay. The orange means
A minute.
1 minute left. And the green means like you can talk.
All good.
All good? Okay. Okay, so please put more green when I talk. No, I'm kidding. Okay. Just put red, I'll shut up. Okay, wonderful. So without further ado, we're going to have a little industry needs and reverse pitch of our friends at Montreal Invivo, then Altascience. So please join me at welcoming Farah Bendahmane from Montreal Invivo. Is she with us? Yes, hello. Keep clapping, she's still walking. No, I'm kidding, I'm kidding. Thank you very, very much. Bonsoir.
Hi everyone, thank you. Do you have my slides? So yeah, I'm from Montreal Invivo, and thank you so much. So I'm just going to talk to you about first a bit who we are. Basically, if you are a company in the life sciences and health technology sector, you are part of the cluster of enterprises that Montreal Invivo supports. So essentially, we're a not-for-profit economic development organization, and we are dedicated to strengthening the local economic development for these kind of companies. So, you know, fostering innovation and the growth of organizations in the cluster, and you know, just basically being here for companies in the sector to, you know, strengthen the business environment, to help them get more opportunities, more partnerships, all that kind of stuff. And we're funded mostly by government as well, so really, you know, you can just call us up and take advantage of everything that we have to offer you. So, what we support at Montreal Invivo, like basically 28% of all of Quebec's life sciences health tech companies are focused on digital health or AI, so that's a pretty significant chunk. But we also support all kinds of different other enterprises, as well as public research centers, industry suppliers, and you know, it's a pretty big chunk of jobs locally. A big part of, you know, like 56,000, 80% of all Quebec's activities. And you know, we also support companies that are looking for venture capital funding, that kind of thing. So a lot of dollars as well. We're here today because you know, I think that there's really an opportunity that we see for digital health and life sciences and AI to accelerate the economic development of LSTH in Quebec. So we all know, I think, that the approaches to healthcare and research are pretty costly and inefficient, and are likely to be unsustainable over the long term. There's also a huge potential for AI applications in healthcare to kind of, you know, optimize all kinds of processes and services. And obviously, access to data is really key to unlock the potential of AI applied to the healthcare and life sciences sector. The challenge is that data security and confidentiality are perceived as a really big risk by many stakeholders, whether it's, you know, decision makers or, you know, even patients. There's a lot of this is a significant challenge for our industry. And what this results in is also like a whole set of other challenges when trying to apply AI in healthcare, which are, you know, the complex and lengthy processes to approve access to healthcare data, the access that is typically restricted to research purposes. You can't just, you know, come up with your company and, you know, just get access to all kinds of public health data. It's really restricted, which means it's also really long. There's a lack of infrastructure allowing for the interoperability and connectivity of healthcare data across the system, and related to that, a lack of funding and expertise, both in data science and data management at the hospital level, which, you know, concentrate a lot of healthcare data. So potential paths forward. We've also at Montreal Invivo been working on the mémoire that we submitted to the budget committee of the Quebec government. Some of the recommendations that we made were the following. So putting in place SOPs for optimal preservation, access, security, and management of healthcare data. So obviously including anonymization, encryption, that kind of thing. And for those privileges to regroup and link healthcare data to be limited to a smaller number of really highly vetted centers that have a high degree of expertise and have demonstrated their strength and their level of quality in that area. So the other path forward would be to facilitate access to healthcare data by simplifying administrative processes, which are a big barrier in the field, and also to adjust these processes to the risks of security breaches. Another path forward would be to provide more budget to hospitals to hire staff that's really expert in the area, to start the process of cleaning, organizing, connecting their data in a way that is up to par with the best practices. So part of why we're here today as well is also to welcome questions and ideas for other systemic and technical approaches from either other fields or other jurisdictions that work with sensitive data, so financial services, transportation, logistics, so like aerospace industry and manufacturing, where you can have like trade secrets, and different jurisdictions, because there are other places that do different than we do, and they're really good at it. So thank you very much. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'll be really happy to connect with you guys. We're here to help and support you.
Thank you very much. We're supposed to have you on the panel later on,
Yes.
I think. It was very insightful, and I think we have a lot of questions. So for the panel afterwards, I think that, I'm checking this one. Yeah, I think that would be wiser. I'm sure we have a lot of questions to be asked, and hopefully I see the challenges ahead, and I hope that the panel will try at least to move the discussion forward. So thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Merci à toi. Wonderful. Yeah, that's just the beginning, and I see all the challenges. It's very exciting because it definitely gives the appetite to work on those challenges. So the next presentation will be by Altascience, and thank you, Anahita, for being with us.
Thank you.
Anahita?
Yes.
Yes. So please, a big round of applause for Anahita.
This one?
Sorry.
This one?
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you very much for inviting me here tonight. I will tell you that I'm one of our computer help desk's most favorite person, because I always have problems, so I was quite surprised to be invited. So I hope my presentation can be of use to all of you. So again, Anahita Keyhani, I'm the Senior Director of Scientific Operations at Altascience in Laval. So I work for a contract research organization, and I've worked for most of my career. So what is a CRO? A CRO is an organization that provides support to pharmaceutical, biotechnology, and medical device industries in the form of research activities outsourced on a contract basis. And contract research organizations range from very large multinational organizations and very small niche specialty organizations. And in Montreal, we are a hub of contract research organizations. We have quite a few. And with the collapse of our research centers for the big pharma, there was a lot of entrepreneurship and new contract research organizations that were developed, because talent remains, it just transforms. Altascience, so what kind of, we're a mid-sized contract research organization. We have been in Montreal for the last 25 years. You might know us as Algorithm Pharma. Be a superhero for life and participate in a clinical trial. So we have preclinical facilities in the United States where we do testing on animals. We have a clinic in Montreal and Kansas, and we also have a bioanalytical lab here and again in Seattle. So what we do is we support drug development for all kinds of companies.
So I'll give you an idea of the drug development pathway. This is a very simple schematic, so you can sort of see where I see some opportunities and where I see barriers. So if you think of every 10,000 compounds that are looked at development, how many ever makes it to market? One drug. And I see opportunity at the early stages in drug discovery. Why? Because it's unregulated. Once you get into stage 2 and stage 3, which are animal testing and human testing, and then the regulatory approval process, what is the challenge? You are in a framework of many, many regulations and expectations. And these are very difficult to change. And also, how do you get access to data to look at your what you're trying to use, develop for AI? And then, of course, when the drug is on the market, we get into the generics, but it's the same process. Of course, we're always evolving. We're looking for technology, and now, the buzzword of AI. So I see some applications and opportunities in drug discovery because it's non-regulated. And again, following on the theme of Montreal Invivo, we can think about wearable tech, diagnostics, monitoring. One of the biggest problems with drugs or clinical trials is adherence, to make sure people are taking their medications. For example, there's digital medicine now where you have some kind of sensor in the pill, and you could use this for people who have mental illness, right? If a schizophrenic stops taking their pill, and if you have this data, you would know when they are going to go into a crisis mode. There's opportunity there. Remote sample collection. Instead of having people going into a clinic to get their blood samples taken for analysis, what if they could do it at home? And the minute they opened the package and took their sample, there would be a signal that a drone could come to their door and pick it up and collect all the data on when it was collected, how it was collected. I see like Janssen Pharmaceuticals is using it for hospital visits, for adverse events in long-term clinical trials. The doctor would know, or the pharmaceutical company would know, when the subject in a clinical trial made a visit to the hospital. But again, this brings a lot of security and privacy issues. And again, there's a lot of advancements in clinical trials. Now, in my world, there's a lot of challenges and hurdles for experimental analysis at the bench, such as bioanalysis. So I work in bioanalysis, and I can't even imagine an AI application to optimize in a regulated environment, but maybe you can. So when I talk about bioanalysis, I'm not going to get into the whole details, but basically we get samples from animals, from humans, all kinds of different kinds of samples, and we have to analyze them, usually quantitatively, to provide information. How do we do that? Well, bioanalytical data, as you saw in that drug development pathway, is for every step of analysis. So you collect the samples, you log them into a LIMS system. Watson is sort of the gold standard. You have your data acquisition with many, many types of instruments, which have many, many types of data platforms and collection platforms. And then you have to get your outputs and reports and get this all into a submission-ready format. So, what is the current status? Drug development is faced with rising complexity in the rapidly expanding world of traditional small molecule drugs, therapeutic proteins. There are now novel modalities. We hear a lot about gene therapy, personalized medicine. It's all because we have data on people's genetics that we can make personalized medicine. For bioanalysis, which is my area, there's disparate data from multiple platforms, software, and analyses. And the challenge is, again, following on Montreal Invivo for healthcare, is linking and reviewing data across multiple data sets and assay development, validation, sample analysis. And even the gold standard in laboratory information management system now is not compliant with the regulations. There's a lot of manual data manipulation. So future direction, you are the experts. Can tools be developed to facilitate data outputs, collate data, and report data in submission-ready formats? Can appropriate AI pattern recognition tools be developed for bioanalysis to better identify and predict risk, accelerate outcomes, and optimize investments? And finally, can advancements in natural language processing and machine learning applications effectively be applied to the area of bioanalysis and improve efficiencies and data quality? Last slide. So, finally, the lab perspective. Transformation would require significant financial and resource commitments. There would be a high return on investment, but it would be a long period of time. And how do we assure that the regulations don't change as we're developing, right? And finally, for a contract research organization, because I've been asked many times, why don't you invest? Why aren't you interested in working with the entrepreneurs? For us to stay competitive, we have to be in line with our customer expectations. CROs must invest, if we have a budget, in new instruments and new softwares that are proven to be acceptable in a regulated environment. We can't go and develop things. So, and unfortunately, the clients like biotech and pharma would have taken the lead. However, as these clients now outsource and go to many smaller providers like us, they don't have an incentive anymore. So I don't know what the solution is. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. Thank you. See, many challenges ahead, and I love how she is like, you are the experts. You are the experts. So you have like a big burden upon yourself for the next few minutes to be ready for amazing questions and solutions potentially at the end. But the reality is that like those challenges are ahead of us, and we're living them, and you're living them. And the solution will not come either from them or us directly, but through this kind of collaboration that we're talking about. So hopefully it will inspire you to open those doors, get to know them, get to work with them, and who knows, with the program that we just discussed with District 3 and others, as we discussed earlier about Coopérathon and many others as well. Wonderful. So as my friend here, Harry, knows, Montreal NewTech is nothing without the demo nights where the startups come and present. It's not a pitch for investors, even though there are usually investors in the room, but more presentations for peers. Is the sound too much?
You're like 90 dB.
I don't. Is that fine? But by the way, we're. Thank you very much. Your body language showed me that something was wrong, but yeah, well, it couldn't be more obvious with his hands and his ears. But I know we are 140 people here, which is a lot, but it's not that much. We're 7 billion on Earth. So feel free if you have any feedback, or if I'm too loud, or if there's something, just like give me feedback. It's better to know now than in like a month being like, Elias, you're the asshole who was speaking too loud at that event. Sounds good? Thanks. C'est bon? Sentez-vous vraiment à l'aise? C'est comme... On est juste 140 personnes, hein, c'est pas... OK? Good? C'est bon? Wonderful. So, ce que je disais, c'est que Montréal NewTech passe par les démos, et les démos des startups sont d'abord et avant tout pour vos pairs. Des entrepreneurs, des aspirants entrepreneurs, et des gens qu'on voudrait peut-être aspirer à entreprendre. Et pourquoi pas en AI et Life Science. So, the demo nights are really for entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, current startups, and maybe people who didn't consider entrepreneurship but are here because they're interested, and maybe we can inspire them to actually become entrepreneurs, hopefully in life science and AI. So, we'll have 4 with us today. So, the format is fairly simple. So they have to present, they have to show a demo, and we will move to the others. They have about 4 minutes, and then we'll take questions for all of them afterwards. Sounds good? Wonderful. If I'm too loud, raise your hand and I'll... So far, so good? Okay, cool. So please join me in welcoming VitalTracer, Azadeh. Azadeh? Hey, Azadeh, is that okay?
All of us has experienced a rising in our blood pressure. For example, when we have a job interview, or me right now giving this pitch. These rises are normal, but in some people it becomes serious and need to be addressed. That's why the solutions come even with the VitalTracer, a medical smartwatch that I currently wear, which measuring all human vital signs, and our specialty is measuring the blood pressure without cough and continuously. 1.56 billion of people globally suffer from high blood pressure. This includes 80% in elderly. It's still first reason of death. And the current devices available in market for measuring the blood pressure are cuff-based, which goes around the arm, inflate and deflate. So it's not possible to measure it continuously. It's tethered to the device, and it's bulky. It's very annoying when inflating. So Canada spending $250 billion annually to treating this chronic disease. The best way is preventing versus treatment, of course. So prevention, it's very common for elderly, for pregnant women, and people with a family history. VitalTracer is a medical smartwatch which is measuring all human vital signs. It measures heart rate variability, respiratory rate, but our specialty is measuring the blood pressure cuffless and continuously. So we're using optical sensors, LED, as well as AI to do so. With a VitalTracer, your health's going to be in your hand, or better yet, on your wrist. Thank you. For demo, you can come after. We will have a demo and question, of course.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. Wonderful. Cool. Free to go. Good. So next startup will be Altus Formation. Do we have Altus Formation with us? Hey, Damon.
We have chat with us.
Oh.
Altus Formulation.
Oh.
So we get the slides up. There we go.
Oh, thank you very much, sir.
So I really don't know what I'm doing here because we have nothing to do with artificial intelligence or big data or anything along those lines. But in the 20 years that I've been here, I'm an immigrant too. We've started 4 companies, had 3 IPOs and a couple of sales. So this is a great environment for starting a company if you have the stamina to do it and you anticipate the future. So I'm not going to pitch our company. This is the 4th startup. We don't like the idea of build it and they will come. The whole challenge to me is anticipating what the needs in the industry are going to be in a few years' time and trying to fill that. So in the first instance, we are developing new small molecules to target the human cannabinoid receptor. A lot of money going into cannabis, phytocannabinoids at the moment. We anticipate, we could be wrong, that the industry is going to change and they're going to need small molecules with intellectual property around it. So that's what we're doing. This is where we're investing. We've got, and should I say, we're looking at 2 areas which we believe are high in unmet need. So opportunity and opportunity, not today, but hopefully in the future. We're looking at postoperative pain and we're looking at dry eye disease. We have 3 new APIs, 3 new small molecules which we own. Intellectual property is vital. Not the hope of intellectual property, but something really that you can own and not lose to a company like I used to work for, which will take your intellectual property and give you nothing if you're not careful. Own your data. We have our first molecule, which is a CB2 agonist, pure CB2 agonist. We've taken it into a large number of preclinical trials. We spend an awful lot of money with Altascience. They've probably, if they did the lunch, we probably paid for half of it. We've validated in chemotherapy-induced nausea and vomiting, ischemia, reperfusion injury, optical neuropathic pain, all in animal models, and in postoperative pain. And then we show data to our investors to prove that we work in all of those molecules. So it's all about reducing risk, and being predictive of what's going to happen in the future. These slides just show in one stage of the postoperative pain that we've got a molecule which works very quickly. Is there a pointer on this? Anyway, it works very quickly and lasts for a long time in these animal models. And it's not an opioid, and it's not a COX cyclooxygenase inhibitor, an NSAID. It's a brand new molecule with a new mechanism of action that creates anticipated unmet need and novelty, which is attractive to investors. We show that we have dose response and so forth. We've taken that wide range of opportunity and taken a gamble. Where are we going to invest our money to demonstrate human validation. We've chosen post-operative pain. Why? There's a large number of people who have surgeries each year, a large number of people in the US who have surgeries each year. They all need an intravenous analgesic, and they are treated more and more in walk-in, walk-out surgery centres. And most people these days, you get opioids. Our company has a product with FDA now at the moment, which is a generic abuse-deterrent opioid. That's where we make our money. This is where we spend our money. Opioids cause a lot of problems themselves, so people want to change, and we seem to have a bit of an opioid abuse problem here in North America. So again, an unmet need which needs something new. We have to prove that's the case. So we went out and asked a load of people who actually would probably use our product, people like Henry here, do you like the idea of our product? So we, even at an early stage, we have market research data which says, well, the slides are not working very well, unfortunately. People we spoke to like our product, anesthesiologists, general surgeons, and so forth. Then we've got to say how much money we're going to make from it. So we need to address the potential addressable market. What we have said here for this sort of product is around $5 or $6 billion. We have to compare our product to what's on the market already. We have to find out a particular, the slide's going really badly. We have to anticipate how much we're going to make, because people are going to, if they're going to invest in us, need to know risk and potential sales going forward. And we need to say what, for us, we will take from that market. So we've created the unmet need, demonstrated where it is, shown our product will work in a large range of well-known indications, picked one which we think has unmet need, and taken a risk. Because we're investing our money, but we're also investing someone else's. So what we're saying is, even with our sales of what we're reckoning is around 250 million, we're only addressing 3% of the market, massive potential for opportunity. In dry eye disease, because I think I'm probably getting a red, it's even larger. So what we have done is what we hope anticipated an unmet need in the future, both for new molecules and for new products on the market. This approach in the future with well-validated data, and this is where the data part comes in, apart from preclinical monitoring, so we can put Altascience out of testing so many animals, is crucial to us to be able to validate our models. It's been successful in the past. I would like to know now how we can adapt our model to take benefit from some of the ideas that you're having. So with that, I'll shut up and say thanks very much.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you, sir. Two to go. So next one actually is interesting because we were talking about Coopérathon earlier, and the next one is actually one that graduated, I think, hopefully, I'm saying it right, from Coopérathon last year, and it's really, really interesting. So please, well, not that the others weren't, they're all very interesting, but that's an interesting story, and hopefully you'll get to understand it and hopefully inspire you to move forward as well. So please join me in welcoming Nicolas from Plakk.
I don't think I've ever actually held a microphone, so...
I can hold it for you.
No, it's okay, I got it.
Bit of my slides.
Yep. Oh. He was right. So I'm Nicholas, not Cash. And yeah, we'll be talking about Plakk today. Okay, so what are we? We're an AI-based platform that wants to predict, treat, and prevent heart attacks and strokes. What is the problem here? We have something where 17 million people die every year. Something that costs healthcare $6 billion a year. And in Canada, one person dies every 5 minutes, largely due to misdiagnosis. This is a plaque. Plaques cause heart attacks and stroke, and it's a huge problem in healthcare. It's a problem for everyone. So what is the problem here? So when we want to analyze a plaque, one thing that we can do is we can look at a slide image of a plaque. And how long do you think it might take you to analyze this type of image? Honestly, when I was talking to my co-founders and when they told me how long it took, I was kind of, in shock. They said for them, it will take them a month to go through 20 of these images. A month of time of highly skilled master's and PhD time that can be cut down. What we want to do is we want to revolutionize the characterization of atherosclerosis, plaques, to improve the prediction, treatment, and ultimately the prevention of heart attacks and strokes. How do we do this? Well, we'll use analysis. Our platform will be able to use analysis to understand how much of the plaque is being blocked. So here we'll be able to see, okay, well, this plaque had a 55% blockage. We'll also be able to do analysis on stained parts of the image. So we'll be able to look at, okay, well, we have a plaque, we'll be able to stain for certain proteins, then we'll be able to say, okay, well, parts of this is healthy for inflammation, parts of these are unhealthy for inflammation. And we'll be able to get quantitative results on the healthy and unhealthy tissues for different stains. And finally, in the end, we'll be able to do something called virtual staining. So virtual staining is a process that takes lots of time and can be very expensive. And we're designing an AI algorithm to be able to create a virtual stain from wide field fluorescent image microscope. So if we look on the left, right, that's just a normal histological stain, and on the right is a virtual stain from our algorithm. And in the end, we have all-in-one platform where you can feed one image, get a virtual stain, get the quantitative results, and cut down that month's work into 2 or 3 days. Now, how much would you give to be able to cut down your work from a month to 2 or 3 days? And that's us.
Thank you, sir. Merci beaucoup. So last startup before moving to the Q&A. So please join me in welcoming Christian from Perceiv. Perceiv, sir.
Thank you. All right. So Perceiv, we are a precision medicine company for complex disease, and we serve mainly the pharmaceutical industry. Sorry. Providing companion diagnostic tools and digital biomarkers. So what is precision medicine? So it's the right treatment for the right patient at the right time. This is a big concept that has been running around for a while now, and it's starting to be more and more with the accumulation of data, a reality that we can pair with artificial intelligence to really characterize those individuals that will benefit the most from treatment. So we are not treating the right people and not evaluating our drugs on the right people either. This is quite drastic. Those numbers are actually highlighting that. So basically we have high failure rate of most of clinical trials in humans due to the small effects, so 75 to 99% of failure. And on the drugs that are actually approved in clinic, you have a rate of efficacy of around 4 to 33%, which is quite low. You have at least 70% of people that are exposed to a drug that is not benefiting them. So we need to change that. And one common point, so the starting point is with clinical trials, and one of the big problems in clinical trials is the failure rate. It's expensive and it's long. And a common point between all of those problems is the patient selection. A more optimal one that actually will enroll the right patient will actually help us demonstrate the effectiveness of the drug and also tailor the drug to a specific population that is better suited to respond to it. A hallmark of these failures in Alzheimer's disease with a 99.6% failure rate in the past 20 years. And therefore, it's a very nice feeding ground to actually try new things, and there is more openness from the pharmaceutical industry to propose new change on what has been established. So our first product is a predictive enrichment for cognitive decline. So we identify individuals that are at greater risk of cognitive decline to enroll in the trial. So currently we have a lot of people that do get included in the trial with the inclusion-exclusion criteria that basically will not decline during the trial, and we need those individuals to decline to show that the drug is actually slowing down that decline or stopping it. So here we are showing you a scenario from a simulation of a population that would normally be enrolled, and we can show that basically the success rate of these kind of population would be around 40%. And with our selection process enriching for population at higher risk, basically we are boosting up those chances of success to 90%, reducing in the meantime the duration of the trial because you have bigger effects. From 3 years to 2 years. So the basic solution of our platform is a companion diagnostic tool and a platform that is actually outputting companion diagnostic tools, combining multiple modalities, imaging, genetic, cognitive tests to really characterize individual subjects and establishing a risk factor for each of those individuals. And you can use the same kind of process to identify subjects that will be better responders to a specific drug also. So the main benefit is increasing the success rate, the efficacy of the particular treatment, and reducing the time of the trial, so basically your drug is going faster on the market. Our great team is actually composed of neuroscientists and deep learning and machine learning scientists. We have experience in the clinical trial process and have consulted for them as well. And I'm going to stop there since I'm almost done. So thank you very much for your attention.
Merci mon cher. Bon. Are you leaving me? That's it, you're done? I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I think it's the part where we actually get to have questions with all the startups. So please, you were here, so that's easier. Hello, hello, merci. And of course, last but not least, hello back, madame. Bon, on va prendre 4-5 minutes de questions avant de passer à la partie de la recherche. So we have the presentation of the startups, then we have a few Q&As, and then we'll have the research part, and finally the panel, and then networking. Sounds good? I'm not too loud this time? Wonderful. I'm still? Okay, thank you. Thanks for letting me know. I'll grow. Yes, so any question? Yes.
Hello. My question is regarding VitalTracer. I understood that the device measures on a continuous basis. I'm wondering what the AI component is.
Is there a second mic?
So what the devices measure, actually, it's measuring a mechanical and electrical signal from the heart, which is called ECG, which is electrical, and PPG, which is photoplethysmography mechanical signal. And we get a feature, we extracting the sum of features from these signals by combination of them, and then estimating the value of the blood pressure. So the real things that they measure two signals. So they record signals.
So the AI is in the interpretation of what's measured?
That's correct.
Yes. I feel like I'm going to do some sports carrying the mic.
For Christian, I was wondering if the failure rate of, well, not if, but the failure rate of clinical trials is so high, do you have an estimation of how many have failed for the wrong reasons? And maybe, you know, there's a lot of attempts to repurpose drugs, but maybe these drugs have just been tested on the wrong populations. And so is there an attempt on your side as kind of, I guess, a stage 2 to bring some of those back, revisit with just different patient populations?
That's a great question. Actually, so there's two different things. Basically, the only problem is not only just patient selection. There is a lot of things that could happen in a clinical trial that the potency of the drug at the beginning is actually a big issue. But if your drug is actually effective, at least on a subpopulation, then there is some room to optimize that and to try to target that population. Repurposing the drug for another indication completely, we are not doing that. And we would need data actually on that other population to be able to do that. That said, we are re-exploring past clinical trials that have failed to retarget or a subpopulation that is maybe more suitable, and this is actually most of what we are doing currently. Yeah.
Can I add a point to that? Absolutely. One of the we've all talked about repurposing, reformulating whatever old molecule. The problem is, by the time you can do that, where's the intellectual property? So who's going to invest in something which is going to be genericized as immediately you get there? It's a one-shot deal. So we need better tools like this to predict a priori where we're going, especially to avoid pharmacokinetic studies and again stop money going to ultrascience and so forth. But even in the later stages, and in oncology especially.
Question for Christian: to find the right patient, do you need to do a genetic profiling?
So we don't. So we use some specific markers, genetic markers.
C'est le fun. C'est les résolutions de 2020, courir davantage.
Or by a second mic. So we are using some specific markers that put you at more risk of Alzheimer's disease in that particular case. But we are not using only that. So you need basically the genetic puts you at greater risk, but doesn't tell you anything about your current situation. Especially for cognitive decline, you need some window into your current status to be able to say like, here you are at a point where you will start to decline or not. So you need other features than only genetic information.
Oui.
My question is for you also, Christian. Like, I thought the whole point of a randomized clinical trial is to see how it affects like all sorts of people who you don't know what, like, you should not have any information about them, so how is it not walking into confirmation bias and just like
Merci.
Maybe I can repeat those questions the next time so that you don't have to run. So basically we do the selection prior to randomization, so the clinical trial is completely clean in that sense. We will do also the training of the algorithms in a separate data set of an equivalent population. Depending on exactly what is the question, basically usually you will evaluate and test and actually use that algorithm on a separate data set, so there is no contamination on that front as well. And I don't know if I've answered completely your question. You don't seem to be very convinced, so can you just detail a little bit more what
I'll ask you later.
Okay.
It's better to leave that
Okay.
to them and list.
Any other question? Okay, hold on. Like, that's a lot of questions. Sorry. No, it's okay. Is that working? Yes, it is. So we'll take maybe like 3 questions. Okay. No, it's okay. So you as well. So ladies first.
So my question is for Nicolas, Plakk.
Yes.
So I really liked what they had done with the histology samples.
Yeah.
So the question is, can you also apply that to CT scans or so, or to teratomas?
The CT scans, I think it's definitely possible, but it's not what we're doing right now. Right now we're just looking at whole slide images. But the goal is to advance to branch out not only to just Plakk images, but other types of whole slide images, and then go to different types of imaging modalities. That's the plan, the grand plan.
Satisfaisant? Okay. Krishna.
Yes. Hello. So my question is for anyone that's using AI to predict, where do you guys get your training data sets?
So for us, right now we have, so my 2 co-founders did the PhD in experimental surgery, so they have collected throughout their PhDs, and then we have a MyTax grant where we've hired a PhD student to go and collect more samples for us. And we're trying to reach out to other labs to be able to collaborate with them and get even more data, because it's all about the data.
It's all about the data.
Yeah, you need to make a lot of friends. Basically, there is a lot of publicly available data sets, and then you can complement with either with partnership with the industry, with pharma, in my case, or also with hospitals as well, which is a very lengthy process, but it's worth it and protects in some ways the final algorithms that will be supported by
I think that question will definitely be discussed during the panel in a few minutes. Sorry. Yes.
I think it's going to be more difficult in future with the ownership of some of these tissue samples and where that goes. It certainly was in when I was young, a long time ago. We could go down to the malls and get samples, drains and whatever. It doesn't. For some reason, it doesn't happen anymore. I think it's going to get worse and worse in that.
So I have a question for VitalTracer. Do you face any competition, like from Samsung or Apple, and what difference do you offer?
Sure, that's a very good and common question. So whenever we go to pitch to investors, they right away say that Apple will do that and beat you. There is a high probability. At the current situation, Apple sensor and ECG signals, but they are not measuring a blood pressure. What they are measuring heart rate, as well as there is a chance of the high heart failure detection and so on. So not blood pressure at the current situation. There is a chance that they come up with the algorithm very soon. We don't know. But there are other startups who is working that they are currently working on a blood pressure. It's a race. Yeah, it's totally a race. Thank you.
Okay, dernière question. Jason.
Thank you. I'm curious to know if the data stays on the device and you use a federated machine learning system or some other system.
No, actually it has a Bluetooth transfer that signals to the online clouding, and the algorithm is there and estimating blood pressure there.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you very, very, very much. Thank you very, very much. Merci. Thanks. I'm sure you have more questions to ask, and we'll get the time during the panel after the research presentation. So, do we have our friends? Hello, sir. How are you doing? Good to see you. Do we have our friends from Health Innovation Initiative here? Come over here. So, as we said earlier, these kind of events wouldn't be happening without the collaboration of a variety of players. And we're very lucky to be able to be here at District 3, which is backed by Concordia, and have a beautiful collaboration with the Health Innovation Initiatives, who's at McGill. Who here knew about the Health Innovation Initiative before tonight? One wonderful person, two wonderful people. Okay, well, at least we're our purpose is getting there. So please join me in welcoming the team of the Health Innovation Initiative.
So we're a group based out of McGill University right now, and our goal through events that we sort of collaborate on and that we host ourselves is to create opportunities for graduate researchers to learn more about entrepreneurship, as well as how they can apply their skills and their expertise outside of academia. And I think later on we're going to have some information come up about an upcoming event that we have. Oh, it's there? Okay, so on February 26th, we have our annual Health Startup Day. So for this event, what we usually do is bring in entrepreneurs or industry professionals who got a graduate degree in health or life sciences, and they come in and talk about how they went, what they did to transition out of academia and into what they're doing now, as well as what advice and what insight they have for young researchers who might be interested in doing the same thing. It's not only geared towards students, it's also a really cool opportunity, or another opportunity, since that's also what we're trying to do here tonight, for people who are in the industry to be able to directly interact with people who are at the forefront of this research that's happening here in Montreal. So if anybody has any questions about it, you can approach any of the three of us later on this evening, and you can also check out our Facebook page at the Health Innovation Initiative. Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much. And we are very lucky to have the Professor Jake Bartlett with us tonight. So thanks again for the Health Innovation Initiative, and please join me in welcoming Professor Jake.
Hi, good evening. So I'm going to give you a 20-minute scientific overview of my research. So I was told to tell you about my research in 3 minutes. I now realize that was in context with startups, which I maybe didn't do. I got it down to 6 minutes, so I'll try and be brief. I come from the Montreal General Hospital, not so far away, and I'm the research director there. So I work on basically, I try and get competitive grant money. I write papers, and maybe some people say, what's the point in all that? But you can look at grant money as really non-dilutive funding. A $1 million CIHR grant can go a long way in helping develop ideas. You don't need to give up anything. You can keep everything confidential. So it's if you think that way about it, it's a reasonable approach of using science to help generate new products. So I'm just going to tell you about one project that I'm currently trying to get into shape for CIHR. If the researchers in the room will know the pain that I'm currently in. I work on bioceramics. That's an incredibly unsexy topic in the era of AI. It's basically cement that you put in the body to fix bone. I'll give you a 1-minute history. They were invented in the 60s. By a surgeon who took something like foamed spark plugs and put epoxy in it and made a kind of tough material and replaced bone. In the 80s, my postdoctoral supervisor stuck it in his arm and realized that it had a very good tissue interaction. These are his postdocs there that were volunteered for this very ethical experiment in Japan. You may or may not know, so this is what I'm working on right now, that the blood supply of the body is based on angiosomes. This is a well-established fact that each volume of your body is supplied by a particular branch of blood vessels. You can think of these as trees. You have a trunk, which is an artery. If you can imagine a double-trunked tree, okay, you have one trunk is an artery, the other is the vein. And rather than this being a network, there are kind of avenues off which these trees of blood vessels come off and feed certain volumes. Here's a real example of the foot, and you can see how each region of the foot is fed by an angiosome. So our thinking is, if you would like to regenerate people and bits of people, the first thing you need to do is generate an angiosome, because if you don't have a feeding trunk or an artery, how are you going to connect that up to somebody? So that's what we're working on. This is not as animated as it should be. You're supposed to see here something like a piece of chalk with a blood vessel running through it. And inside, what's going on? Well, we have the blood vessel sprouting. You just heard about the consequences of blood vessels failing. It's pretty fatal. The reason it's fatal is we have no way of making blood vessels regrow. Okay, we can't make them regrow where we want them to, when and where we want them to. This is what they look inside. It looks even less great on a big screen than it did on a small screen. And I'm not sure if this video will work, but this is an angiosome that we've generated inside of basically a piece of cement. People at the front can see this has been sutured, so it's been transplanted, been grown in one place, moved to a new place. I'll see if this video works. It does not. If this video worked, what you would see when someone cuts into that piece of cement is it starts bleeding. This whole thing is then basically alive. It's basically a scaffold in which you have a new angiosome, and that enables you then to transplant cells into that scaffold, and it gives you a first step regenerating piece of tissue. Right now we're growing bone, muscle, and skin, and other things like that. I was asked to say, who do I work with? I think it's no point in me reading that out to you, but we consult with surgeons and say, is this useful? No, it's not. Why isn't it useful? How would it be useful? And we try to make sure that these things that we find mainly serendipitously can eventually have some kind of meet some unmet need. So thanks for your attention.
we'll take a few questions. You were super fast. I thought that like a researcher would like go on and on.
I was very afraid of sign that.
Oh yeah, I know. Okay, we'll take a few questions before moving to the panel. Who has a question? Yes. Okay.
Is it like? Hi, thanks for the presentation.
Yeah.
It looks really futuristic. Is the like cement biodegradable? Like, can you connect it to tissues and stuff?
Yeah. So you can. It's very sexy now, but you can 3D print that into any shape and put different types of tissue and cells inside. Yeah. So wish me luck getting funded.
Hold on. Why are you leaving so early? Do you have a question?
So if you were to like place it like plant it into a patient, like what would be the time that it will all be covered by the blood vessels for it to function as if it's like a normal
a few
tissue?
weeks, 2 or 3 weeks.
2 or 3 weeks?
Yeah. I think another application, a lot of people are looking at cell screening for trying to develop in vitro testing models, and I guess they're missing certain components, and there may be a more complex ex vivo tissue substitute.
So, this is the second question, sorry about that. But like
The one is free. To
okay, all right,
I'm kidding.
So where are you? What site are you planning to try it first on?
You're trying to grow femurs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I was just kidding. Any other question? Yes. Hello. Hey, good to see you.
Thank you for the presentation. My question is, instead of using cement, would it be possible to genetically engineer proteins that could potentially play a similar role in as materials?
I think you'd be a very good scientist, because why use the simple cheap thing when you can make it complicated? And I guess yeah, I guess you could. Yeah.
Hey, hello. How are you doing? Right on time. Any last question, maybe, or we get to the panel? Oh, sorry. Thank you. Okay, 2 questions actually. Okay.
So it's my understanding that depending on the porosity and tensile properties, then tissue will grow differently. Can you 3D print this with different properties to act as a proper scaffold?
It is a proper scaffold. I think the point is that given how important blood vessels are and all of the fatal consequences of them going wrong, it's pretty impressive, or depressing when I look at it, that we don't have any capacity to regenerate them. Angiogenesis has been around since whatever, but there's no pro-angiogenic therapy. There's anti-angiogenic therapy, and I guess that's the significant.
I was wondering if you checked for the cytotoxicity of the thing you're engrafting.
Yeah, you can buy that material to implant in people already. So I gave up inventing new materials because I don't have 20 years to earn, $5 million to get stuff approved, and I think it's better to repurpose. There's no IP there, perhaps, initially for the material itself, but it's a faster route to try to move the field forward. As a science, biomaterials is very comparative. You have some animals, you try 2 different things. This one's better. Patent it, sell it quickly.
Okay, wonderful. Maybe one last question. Well, we have a room with a variety of people. Is there something that we can do for you?
Yeah, I think I'm here to network and to talk to people that maybe see a kind of relevance that I haven't seen. I think there's a huge power in cognitive diversity, I think you put it, and maybe we can't be expert in everything. It's something we found by chance. We understand it the best we can, but there may be people here that can see something far more valuable than we have.
Well, thank you very much, Professor Bartlett. And we're going to move to the panel part right now. So please join me in welcoming, saying thank you, absolutely. Cognitive diversity, I love that. I think I will write this down. So hopefully we'll enjoy the cognitive diversity that we just talked about. And I know that it will be challenging with the diversity and the sheer number of mics that we're enjoying tonight. So we'll try to do our best. And as you know, as you saw, the presentation on the industry side, then on the research side, and the startup side. And for the last part, for tonight before the networking, it's a panel where we, as the subject around data, AI, and life science matters. And as you've seen throughout the different presentation, there are issues there, but also, of course, challenges and hopefully opportunities and action that we can all take together. So on the panelist side, we will have Anahita, Farah, Damon, yes, Professor Jack Bartlett, as well as Azadeh. So please join me in welcoming them at the panel. So I guess no need for the clicker anymore. Wonderful. So, well, first, thank you very much for being with us tonight, and thanks for taking the time. And I hope that this kind of format, we really hope that this format will be relevant and that we will get what we're hoping to get through it. Second, think of questions. We want this to be kind of like more an open space rather than just me talking. Third, we would love to have your feedback. So check how we're doing things. Feel free to contact us, reach out to us, give us feedback on the content, on the format, as well as if you have any specific asks or specific requests throughout this conversation further on. So we had the chance to know a bit more about you throughout the early presentation, and I would love maybe like just to set the table, to know a bit about the sectors or the subsectors that you think are more susceptible to get really relevant innovations throughout the use of data and AI in life science, of course. Who would like to jump in? We don't have that many mics, so I'm sorry.
I'll say something to start. I think it's been echoed already in terms of compliance. I think, especially in the plain CNS space, compliance is a real issue. And we're starting now. My wife works for a company called Otsuka. I think they have one of the pills that says when you take it, it starts to can release stuff as well. I think the opportunity is there to create de novo data rather than having to rely on purchasing or access to already well-controlled data is an area of real opportunity. And if we can increase compliance, we'll have less hospital admissions and readmissions and so forth. It's a saving.
Maybe in the area of personalized medicine and using data for inclusion-exclusion criteria, which was presented. We know that Biogen recently had a huge failure for an Alzheimer drug, and then they went back and looked at the different segments and saw who responded, based probably on some biomarkers, some cognitive tests. I'm not an expert, but they were going to resubmit their filing for the medication because they felt that for a subset of patients it would be effective. So I do see a lot of opportunity for in that space, and also for adherence and monitoring and diagnostics. The diagnostics, we have to remember, like the blood pressure device, it's not a medical device, it's a monitoring device. You need to be CLIA certified to be a medical device. So again, there's a lot of opportunity and that you can do when you're not in the regulated space. Once you come into the regulated space, or privacy, things like that, I think it becomes much more challenging.
The clinical trial report.
Oh, clinical trial reporting, yes. As I mentioned, data comes from all different places, and it's very hard to collate. It takes a lot of energy and time, and as I mentioned, the pharma companies don't care as much because we're doing all that. And as long as we meet their timelines, they don't care if I cut or paste, right? So again, I think in the pharma companies, like imaging diagnostics, things like that.
Right, so I think technology provides an opportunity in prevention. You know, the best way for us to reduce healthcare costs is less people get sick. We know that prevention is better than a cure, and it's very unsuccessful. People eat badly, they don't exercise enough, and I think technology enables people to engage in improving health. At our hospital, we have a new kind of science developing called prehabilitation. This is not waiting for people to get sick and help them to get healthy, but saying, you know, prior to having your cancer treatment, you know, in your current state, you're going to deteriorate really badly. So, because you can't walk 100 meters right now. So get better, and there's a huge opportunity for technology here in trying to get cohorts of patients even ready for treatment. It saves tons of money because it's these kind of patients that develop complications and end up in hospital for far longer than they should.
Maybe from the side, yeah, exactly. J'allais justement me tourner vers toi. Maybe, can you hear me? I think yeah, okay, good. So no need for a mic. From the industry perspective, you hear about this kind of like
the healthcare, the hospital setting. You have these diseases like, you know, in cancer or Alzheimer's, like Christian was discussing earlier, where there's a really, really high burden of disease for the patient, and there are really significant costs for the healthcare system. The patient journey is really complex. There are a lot of steps, but these, I think, diseases are also based on a lot of imaging. So I think that based on the kind of technology we have in AI that is able to you know, perform image recognition or, you know, classify samples and that kind of thing, well, it can be a really interesting, I think, application for AI in healthcare.
And you were talking about preventive aspects, and we were talking about like access to data, and you talked about the aspects of compliance. Obviously, like, what are the challenges when you're talking about like compliance exactly for people here in the room who may think? Sorry?
Data integrity. I mean, you don't. I think it's an arrogance. This is a British man talking about arrogance. So it's an arrogance to assume that pharma owns the data that comes from us. But we all need that data. So there has to be a financial aspect to that. That sort of large data set is extremely valuable, but that data needs to be kept and protected. And as we've seen in every other industry, something which is very valuable will get stolen. So the ability to ensure data integrity, to ensure that you can keep people's information confidential, and yet still extract the information that's needed, I think is an area of significant opportunity.
I love how like everybody is nodding, but so what kind of, that's wonderful to hear about opportunities, and I think people here in the room are looking for this kind of opportunities. How would you see it materialize in a sense? Like,
and I wanted to bring up the other aspect of compliance. It's patient compliance. We have a lot of people who don't take their drugs right. I mean, they're supposed to do it a certain way and they don't. So that's also a huge, I think, opportunity to figure out how we can ensure compliance or give people tools that they know, are they, you know, reminders, things like that, you know, for compliance. And there is even on clinical trials, we do work with epileptic patients, and these children might have parents who don't want them to have a seizure. So they say that they're only giving the drug of the clinical trial, but how do you sure they're not giving other things? So there's a lot of issues with compliance in the drug industry, and a lot of times when they say the drugs don't work, a lot of times it's because people are not taking them appropriately. Or they don't work because they're not perfect. Like Humira is the best-selling drug in the world. It works in 30% of the people, right? So.
Yeah. Well. That's mine. Yeah, I guess one is enough. Anyway, so it's interesting that we were talking about like solutions and technologies and access to data, but now you're kind of like going back, not going back, but like going to the prevention aspect and the human aspect. So basically like this whole life science AI data that I was expecting to dive deeper into data, which hopefully we'll get to, has a huge human component on it. Professor Bartlett was talking about like a new kind of like department around preventive care. So how do you see this kind of like, what's the role of data in this kind of prevention and with the human component at support?
Well, it's scalability. Right now we have personal trainers with meeting patients one-on-one, and there's a limit to how many people you can help that way. We're doing this in order to make the healthcare benefit cost argument, but I think it's scaling this and automating it to some extent. You don't need to physically come to the hospital to have your baseline health checked, for example. And having said that, one of the unexpected outcomes of this is that the benefits are not only physical, it's mental, right? Being in a group of people with the same problem, with a devastating diagnosis, is very good. So how you scale that over technology, I don't know.
Okay. And regarding the access to data, so you talked about compliance, you talked about data integrity, and obviously there are in the news a variety of cases weeks over week around data breach, data access, etc. What do you see, one, quickly, I guess, for people who are not experts necessarily in the field but interested, what do you see are the main differences when we're talking about life science and data versus other fields or industry? And second, how do you see the potential ones we have in the room?
I think it's going to become even more challenging to get access to data because we're talking about the rights of the subject and privacy. And again, what do you do? Let's say you have a device that monitors if you exercise, if you, you're, pardon? No, if you exercise, if you're walking, and people are collecting this data, and then insurance companies will say, well, I'm not going to insure you at this rate because I can see that you're not doing what you should. I mean, I don't know any of you have gotten cars lately. They send you a app that says, well, if you install this app, your car insurance is going to go down because that means they're going to be monitoring you continuously. And I think we have to be very, very careful in this regard. And that's why when anything has to do with a human and no longer having a choice, it being a continuous event, it's going to have a lot of challenges. That's how I see it.
But yeah, I totally accept it, but I believe that we should change it a little bit. Like in our genders, like they share lots of pictures and information in public, and they really don't care about the privacy. But then when it goes to the health care and health data, then they come because like, oh, it's picky, we don't want to share it. But in terms of like, there are lots of as in personalized medicine or wearable devices, like there are lots of data that they can share it without name, but with the gender and more information that can help themselves to improve their health.
So from your watch, when it records the data, who owns the data that your watch records? Is it me if I was wearing the watch, I own that data? Or would you, as part of your business model, sell that data to someone else to be able to generate more revenues? Which one would you do?
Second one.
So you're selling my data to someone else. How do I benefit?
It gets like a biofeedback about your information.
You just sold my property. Where's my benefit?
Yeah, there is one movement that for the sharing the information, we should pay to the person's information. Yes, there is a chance, but the things that if they sell the information, they sell it without name, which is
that's fine. I'm not asking. I'm just saying something that I own comes from my body is being used by someone else without my permission to make money, and I have no problem with that.
Yeah, usually they give a permission, but if you want to like use this app, you should agree. Otherwise,
you get to the bottom of 50 pages of that thing, and you say,
that's totally correct. This is not what we are doing, but
I'm not getting it.
No, I know.
I love that kind of like heat, so go ahead.
I just want to point out, everybody knows 23andMe? Who bought a big stake in 23andMe? Or bought them outright? A huge pharma company. Why? They want access to your information to make a profit for themselves. I mean, if we really think about it, I mean, I'm all for drug development. My whole career has been in this field. But if you really think about it, we are not even using the medicines we have for the world population properly. We are not developing antibiotics. We are working on personalized medicine that are going to be very, very expensive. So, I mean, there's a philosophical aspect on it, and then you're selling your information for somebody else's profit, and maybe not everybody's profit.
So I just, All right, I'll go with this one. So I just want to jump in actually and just take a step back, because there's also the dimension of, you know, you give your data to 23andMe, or you give your data to a device that monitors your blood pressure, but you are actually getting something out of it in that you don't have to go to your doctor to get your blood pressure monitored, or you're learning about, you know, your personal susceptibility to certain genetic diseases. So
well, if it's validated.
If it's validated.
And most of these devices are
right.
not validated, and they have no relevance in the real world.
And so, yeah. So what I also wanted to add is that there's, I think, the question of data and what we do with it, and our own personal data. Like, it's a bigger discussion, I think, of our own sovereignty and our own willingness to take risks with regards to our own personal data as it relates to ourselves when we're the one making the decision. And I think the other conversation is about the healthcare system providing access to large amounts of data, you know, on a populational level. And I think there are some discussions as well in the sector right now that are looking at maybe, well, what if we included consent as part of, you know, consent to data access as part of, you know, I don't know, hospital admissions. What if it was a kind of opt-out consent rather than, you know, having to, you know, actively opt into having your data used for research purposes? I mean, these are conversations that we're having now that are, you know, that have to be addressed because of how much potential there is for healthcare data to advance the efficiency of our healthcare system, to advance its sustainability, to basically respond to a very real problem that we're starting to see, that, you know, there's probably no way that we can just continue with the current system as it is and all of its inefficiencies.
But it's really interesting. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, if you can, as AI, figure out ways to ensure security of data, I think that's a huge potential for health data, to ensure its security, to ensure that it's really just used as you being a number that nobody can trace. I don't know if you read the New York Times, there was an article, a woman who had her child through sperm donation sent the child's sample to 23andMe. She did not check a box that said, don't give me any more information. 23andMe sent her back the paternal grandmother, right? So this sperm donor was to remain anonymous. And the algorithm and the data matching outed the sperm donor because it told the mother who the child's grandmother was. We have to be extremely, extremely careful as we go on into this domain. I do believe in advancement. I do think technology, we have to use it for the good, but we also have to look at the potential drawbacks.
And yeah, and like, just to jump off on what you said, I agree completely that it's extremely important, and this is why actually we brought this as a, you know, as our challenge, because, you know, in other industries, like, I don't know, banking, what kind of techniques or what kind of, you know, systemic approaches have people, you know, in the AI field and other areas found, you know, what kind of, I don't know, what kind of different solutions?
I think data for bankings are much more less complex than in health field, and some data like genomes are like your identity, right? So
actually, I'm surprised that we haven't heard the word ethics yet, because or maybe I missed.
Well, we're implying.
Yeah, but I mean like it goes beyond technology. It's about the framework that you're using and the humans behind, and because like you seem to be very concerned, which rightfully
I'm in the pharma
so.
industry. I'm in it to make
Yeah.
money. I'm not in it to save the world. So, you know, if you're in the car industry and the banking industry, no one says, oh, you know, well, what are you doing for well, perhaps more now. What are you doing for mankind? Not going in your private jet, so forth. But the pharma industry is there to make money, and they will make money to the edge of the ethical boundary. And unless the boundary is well maintained, there will be leakage, and that is a problem. This is one example of it.
So okay, so that's part. I think we can go on and on for hours. If there is anyone else in the room who...
Can I make just one point, that I will be very quick. What I wanted to mention is the way we can get around some of this is modeling and doing in silico establishment of genetic markers. Then we can avoid some of the need for human data. It's going to take there's a lot of data out there. It can be used to avoid the need to take human data itself.
Okay.
My question is about money and ethics. I'm wondering, I understand that in order to invest in research and to actually want to do research, I heard a lot predict the need. There needs to be a need that we see somewhere, A. B, it has to be something that can be monetized, right? So I'm curious about your opinion as to rare diseases. Who would want to research and why, and what do you think about it?
That's why we have vouchers from FDA, which you can trade.
Sorry?
That's why we have vouchers from FDA and other agencies that you can trade.
To promote research and...
So you get a voucher which will give you accelerated review, for example, if you go into an orphan disease or if you go into a tropical disease. Well, one of the things we've done is go into tropical diseases. You can get a voucher from FDA which you can sell. There's a company in Montreal, Knight Pharmaceuticals, that sold their voucher for $100 million. But they went into a tropical disease. So it's like carbon swaps. It's a voucher to monetize to promote research in unsexy areas.
Well, so to build on that, the other word that hasn't been mentioned is policy, and maybe it's partly a suggestion for the organizers to bring policymakers to this as well, because they're the ones that are going to enact the change. Because as long as the boundary isn't moved, then the ethics don't matter. It's the policy that will force the hand of the people in charge to make better decisions, down the line. And if anybody has any, additional comment on how the policies surround this and the people making the policies.
We work in the opioid space, and the policies just haven't been there, and now we're shutting the door after the horse is bolted. So I can only agree with what you say.
Okay. I would go back maybe to the entrepreneurial aspect, because one of the, and I agree, like ethics policies are crucial, and I mean like that's the framework or the box where people can innovate and explore. But I would like to go back to the entrepreneurship part. So what do you see as either a best practice or as an opportunity, the kind of data that the entrepreneurs in the room or the aspiring entrepreneurs in the room can take advantage of from what you see in the current field?
MedTech with the Q, MedTech company, they have the one platform that they use other data from different hospitals and universities that you can be involved and use that data. And for each sector, like imaging, or I can talk about the VitalScience that we are working on it. There are online free database like a VisioNet that you can go and access to those data and signals, and you can build your model as a proof of concept to see whether it's work or not before building your company and go for clinical trial.
Because I think we had Christian or Nick, I think from Perceiv AI or Plakk, who said basically you have to be the best friend of some researchers, or you have to seduce them.
Pretty much.
What? Of everybody? You have to be the best friend of everyone? Yeah, the amico de tutti, amico de nessuno. Anyway, yeah, well, everyone may be a big aspect, but maybe taking like this kind of like PhD or researcher, my feeling, and I may be completely wrong, so like you can say you're wrong. It's fine, I won't take it personal. My feeling is that like this is the field where researchers and entrepreneurs have to collaborate, because researchers, as you said, like medtech, etc., but researchers has access to a certain type of data that if you're outside the game, you won't. Or am I completely wrong?
Well, I could say, for example, I don't know if we have such a system in the U.S., in Canada, but in the U.S., the VA system, right? The Veterans Administration, it has huge amounts of data, and that's a lot of the researchers do mine that data to come up with information and patterns and diagnostics and things like that. So I assume that, I don't know if we have such a thing in Canada.
So in Quebec, actually, we do have RAMQ data, which is the data from the public insurance, and also I think from hospitals. So we do, but you can't access that kind of data unless, like I used to be with INES, which is the health technology assessment body. We could work with RAMQ data, but good luck if you're in pharma, especially like in the recent years. They really restricted that data to people who work with researchers, and so it's not just simply accessible. Or and the delays are also really long to have access to that kind of data.
Okay, I have actually a follow-up question on that part, and we talked about integrity, we talked about ethics, policies, from the data and the individual itself, himself or herself or themselves. What about biases? We've seen a lot of clinical trials or even a medicine that was developed that were better for men, basically, than women, for example. What do you think of the biases in the current data, and what do you see this as an opportunity, as a, well, obviously a challenge, but we're talking a lot about diversity and inclusion, and by the way, very happy to see that our panel is fairly diverse. Very, very proud of that. Good job to the team. What about the data, and what are the challenges and potential opportunities there?
So I'm just going to start, like, for this, kind of on a positive note and on a note of opportunity for Canada. The great thing about us, Canadians, is that we are a super multicultural set of people. And so the kind of, the way you can train algorithms on data from multicultural people, you might have less bias than you would in a country that's more kind of, homogenous in its ethnicity. So that's just one point I wanted to kind of jump off on.
I can say for like the clinical trials we run in our clinics for healthy volunteers, a lot more of them are men, right? You have to really work hard to make sure if you're going to have a cohorts that are men and women balanced, and then of course there are studies just for women, but if women if they're childbearing age, they can't participate. And again, in terms of diversity, it's certain ethnic communities, even though they're here, they will not be very receptive to participate in a clinical trial, right? We get certain ethnicities that are more interested than others to participate. So, but in a patient trial, I suppose everybody will be very interested to participate, because then you're looking at outcomes, not just testing the drug for safety and efficacy, safety.
No, we do have, again, coming back to the regulatory field, we do have incentives to broaden applications, and we have the pediatric benefits now. If you have pediatric requirements in the US, I forget what the Canadian one's called. PRIO, is it PRIO? I don't know. There's a so for example, if you test your drugs in pediatrics, it's a small population and very risky, of course, then you get 6 months extension on your exclusivity on the market. So there are ways of trying to make these things more, well, speak to the bottom line, which is really what pharma is listening about.
I was just going to nuance what you said about like the patient participation in clinical trials. So assuming that we had access to data at a hospital level, for example, I think that you would have a much more kind of representative sample, right? Because there wouldn't necessarily be as much selection bias or bias linked to women being of childbearing age, or actually you might even have more women of childbearing age giving birth in hospitals. So.
And I just wanted, and there is, for example, I've worked on trials that were multi-site where they would give a dose in North America, and then the dose had to be completely changed in Japan, because there's also the genetics, but there's also the microbiome, which is related to your diet and your environment. So, the more we learn, the more complicated it becomes. So there's things to consider in that respect too.
Wonderful. Who has some questions? Okay. Is that okay to keep this and I'll keep that? Okay. You keep this, I'll keep that. Better? Yes. Wonderful. Yeah.
Hi. So I'm curious, there's, I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but there's a program by Johnson & Johnson called J-Labs. They offer an innovation for support of new startups, etc. And they defined a few stages that are involved from taking an idea to a commercialized solution. So the main areas are basically research, then there's kind of prototyping, assessing market viability, and then there's also kind of another stage of doing the business development. From your experience, which one of those stages do you think needs the most support in Quebec, or based on what's available here and in Canada?
So what kind of support? Actually, if we want to say that there are some services support versus financial support. I came from Ottawa, 10 years there and working there. So Ontario province versus Quebec, Quebec is heaven. We don't have any money in Ontario anymore regarding startups, especially in life science at all. We had it one as an OC, Ontario Center of Excellence, but we don't have any money anymore. I don't know why. But in Quebec, I moved recently, having 1.5 years ago to Quebec and start building my connections. There's lots of money here. You need to connect with one of the good incubator here, and then good coach, and you're gonna learn step by step as a proof of concept how to do it, validate your idea, and go and build it. If you're working as a researcher, QCSE is a very good program to start it. And then they show you, and they're super friendly and helping very much, and they ask for nothing. But just so you know, J-Lab, we have one in Canada, which is in Toronto, and they rent offices for $1,100 per month. So I don't know about the acceleration program. They're super famous. I love them, but it's costly. In here, D3 do everything in free. There are lots of other incubator and accelerator in Quebec, which is free, and they are amazing as well.
So I just wanted to jump off of what you said about there being a lot of funding opportunities in Quebec. I'm just going to do a shameless plug, because on Montreal Invivo's website we actually list all kinds of funding programs that are available to entrepreneurs, especially in life sciences. And I think we might have some for AI, but I'm not yet 100% sure. But I started it 2 weeks ago at Montreal Invivo, so I'm just getting familiar with. But I know that we have like a pretty exhaustive database of funding programs. That's the first thing. The second thing is, again, I'm still kind of new at Montreal Invivo, but one of the major things that have been highlighted are that, so I take care of two like strategic committees. One of them is for the development of entrepreneurship, and the other one is for AI. One of the things that really came out from our enterprise development strategic committee is the lack of funding for startups that reach, the later stage. So when they're looking for VC funding, that kind of, larger amounts for really, scaling up and like going public, that's where there's really a lack locally. So.
I don't think that's Quebec. The gap between preclinical and clinical is a big step change in costs. And where was that? When I first came to Montreal, there was funding for that. Yeah, absolutely right. It's not there anymore. You have to go down to the US, and even there it's becoming more difficult.
Any other question? Maybe last two. Yeah. Thank you, sir.
So all of you guys are somehow related to healthcare. What is actually going to bring the cost down and potentially save the system?
based on my own experience, don't go to the hardware in medical area at all. SaaS is the best.
To bring costs down, I think prevention, right? If we help people to be healthy from day one, and I'm always amazed that we have no public radio station or public television station that continuously would give people information on their health, funded by the government, exercise courses, we're all going to the gym, but why can't we have these things funded by our government and have continuous information so that all levels of society can have that information for prevention? And of course, having like groups, maybe advertise, go to this place and you can work together. I think that would be a great opportunity to bring costs down with prevention, because we know a lot of the problems is not good diet, no exercise, no good teeth health. We know that these are all issues.
Yeah, I guess replacing through science, you can understand what a lot of illnesses are caused by. You have ulcers used to be a surgery, okay, and now it's an antibiotic treatment. I say tons of that progress and better understanding.
So I think that one of the approaches that are, so if you look at health technology assessment, one of the goals of health technology assessment is bringing to market, the therapies and interventions that are, basically give you the most bang for your buck. And one of the major trends in health technology assessment these days is, they're looking at using real world evidence to basically feed the how you estimate the effectiveness of a new drug or a new intervention or a new way of treating a certain disease. So I think that obviously the way, I'm going to do it again, the way to reduce health costs for the system, I think, is having better access to data, to use that data for more real world evidence studies, to be able to better target the interventions, streamline the treatment pathways, identify sources of inefficiency in a given pathology. So I think that it's a way that can definitely be used to decrease the burden of illness and the burden of costs on the system.
Maybe one last question. Pizza is here. No, it's not because of the pizza. Yes. Any question? Yes.
Just going back to the AI part, so I'm curious to know how AI is actually, how can it help you in your job? Because scientists have been doing science forever since, with statistical model and iterative process and linear regression on Excel documents. So one of the panelists talked about computer vision images. Is there any other?
Yeah, definitely. For example, if you're doing preclinical toxicology, the pathologist looks at every slide from the animals. If you can feed all this into a machine learning type system, and then you get the new pathology slide, what is the baseline, what are the things. You don't need to hire all these pathologists, right, looking through a microscope. Of course, the pathologist might not be very happy. And again, all this in imaging, if you're doing drug development, if you can, you can look at different images and see the impact of your drug. Is it getting to the right place?
I think I should start with the family care physician. I think there's a lot of cases where you could do without family care physicians replacing with computer terminology.
They're looking at nurse practitioners instead of family care physicians, again, because you have access to information. Imagine, like right now, any doctor, you come and you tell them a few symptoms, they can put it all together in Google and and sometimes you will get the disease, right? So a family care physician, just to go the first step, technology is, I think, already there. We just have to use it better. Save money, save time, better outcomes, because again, you're removing the bias, right? If you have a standard algorithm that takes this information and gives you this result, then you're taking away the personal bias, right? Well, that's it. Your money and your health, I think, is going to be very hard to get rid of the human factor. But I think there's this, nurse practitioner, midwives, right? We're pushing to have these kinds of people.
Okay, wonderful. I'm really bad to say no. I have to learn that part. So last question, and then we'll get to networking, because I know there are a lot of content still who wants to be shared, but we'll get the opportunity to do so. So make it quick.
I was going to ask the yes or no question for Dr. Mother. Like, could you make a graph factory basically with the cement?
Yes. Well, thank you so much for all our speakers tonight. Thanks for taking the time. Thanks for being so insightful. You can stay with us here for a minute. 1 minute before going, I would like to actually, because this kind of event doesn't happen by themselves, and I know I'm here on stage, or whatever that is, I would like to invite also the volunteers, organizers of District 3 and the Health Innovation Initiative to join me here. Maybe you can take a picture, and then we'll get to networking, if they're here. No, they're not here, they're already eating. Okay, well, let's do that then. Wonderful, so thank you very, very, very much again. I hope that you will stay with us. And thank you so much. Hopefully you'll stay with us during networking. Just a quick information. I know you're eager to have a bite, but it's quite important. We strive for diversity and inclusion. We are a volunteer organization, so if you're looking to volunteer for an organization, please reach out to us, one. Second, we have an event coming up on February 29th with Black in Tech for Black History Month. It will be on AI and, Black in AI, basically. We're still looking for a space and working on it, but we definitely invite you to book your February 29th in your calendar. If you want to give us a hand or anything. Sponsors as well, always looking for money to have better food. And somebody lost their credit card, so drinks on me tonight. No, I'm sorry. Okay, so please, Michael Travis. Travis, any Travis in the room? Come on. Okay, well, we'll figure these parts out. Okay, so drinks on me, indeed. The code is, no, I'm just kidding. We're live on Plus. Okay, thank you so much, everyone. Enjoy the pizza and see you at our next event. Thanks again for our partners, District 3, Health Innovation Initiative, le ministère de l'Économie et de l'Innovation, Coopérathon de Desjardins et EY. Ramsey est encore là, j'espère. Donc, je vous invite à passer une très bonne soirée. Puis, nos speakers sont encore avec nous. Merci encore. Au revoir. Just fun? Okay, yeah. But I would love to get your feedback. We're going to send a quick form if you can do the back part. Yeah. What's up? Merci à toi. Ok. Attends, je vais juste aller déposer ça. Je reviens. Yes.
You have my wallet?
Yes. Are you Travis?
I'm Michael Travis.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, we'll play a game. Do you have any piece of ID?
Yes.
Anything else on you besides this? Just to be sure.
My phone?
Yeah. Not that I don't trust you, just to make sure that there is no...
It's good.
Or just tell me what's in your wallet.
There's...
Do you have any picture ID? That would be way easier. Okay, well, you have a picture ID. You look very handsome. Here you go, sir. It's yours. Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Just want to make sure that I didn't want to look inside the wallet.
I'm glad someone found it because
that would be very boring.
I was filling my pockets. I'm like,
yeah. Well, I'm happy that you found it tonight.
Thanks for the event.
It was a pleasure. Thank you very much. We're going to send a quick feedback form. Yeah. Please try to take the time to fill it because it's quite important for us to know what we did well, what we should improve on, and absolutely.
It was a pleasure. What do you do if it's not indiscreet? I work in LifeScience financing, so I fund early stage companies.
What is it like an angel fund or like a more like a VC or venture fund? Okay.
Yeah.
What's the name?
Amplitude Ventures.
Tu t'es enregistré? Well, if you have a card. No, but I mean like when you registered your... Yeah, I'll get your card. Well, it's a pleasure. Thanks for being here.
So there you go. I had my name on that too.
Yeah, well, actually, that's... Okay, let's just hold on 1 minute. Okay. Let me just put that somewhere. One minute.
No process.
Hello. Hello.
Here, but I guess Yesterday I've seen.
Hello.
Salut, ça va?
Oui, ça va bien et toi?
Ça va, merci. Merci beaucoup pour votre faveur à notre...
Ah, it's a pleasure. C'est beaucoup de plaisir. Merci à toi.
Yeah, it was definitely very interesting to hear about
You know what? You were so positive for the music.
Where is that?
I don't know why you are. I suspect that that's because
No, but like what's
the way you spoke.
Oh, really? Thank you.
Just very warm and engaging.
Appreciate it. Thanks. It means a lot.
We haven't met. We've only met on the phone.
Oh.
I'm Liz Cooper.
Oh, oui, bah oui. Yes. Where did you move to now?
I am now on. It's called Max
that's
Consulting.
So funny. That's so funny.
And so now I do marketing analytics, assessment, communication, and strategy work.
Okay. Hey, that's cool.
Yeah, and I came to this because, of course, all of these small startup companies, what they really need is somebody who they can parachute into do certain things and then parachute out because they don't have a need for somebody full time. They don't have that.
Absolutely. Oh, that's really cool. That's funny that we actually, well, now that you see what our events look like.
Oh yeah, no, this is awesome. Because of course, I run all of these women in bio events, and I talk about wanting to have standing room only, and they won't let me do that.
Okay.
So they have a lot of ridiculous reasons, I think.
No, I think collaboration is key, and I really believe in that. And I think people don't like usually to get out of their comfort zone. I know it sounds very cliche, but people like they're doing something such a way, blah blah. But when you collaborate, it creates some friction, but it also pushes people to move beyond what they currently do and explore like a new kind of like sphere. I would actually love, like it sucks that we weren't able to actually make it happen because in all en toute franchise, like I think we would love to have a bit more expertise, I would say, in the field, like in this. Because, j'ai animé le panel, but I think I could have been more like a facilitator and having someone from Women in Bio or something, who could bring...
Okay, then you and I need to sit and figure out, because I pitch at least one or two events, like big events a year. And then we can talk about how do we connect those two things, or how do we get a lot more women in bio involvement.
But you know what? It's women in technology. It's women in like going beyond.
I mean, I think the great thing about women in bio is that it is quite diverse. You have everything from the law firms, the EYs, the...
Bon, demain 4h, 3h30
3h30, 4h.
Ok, sounds good, je passe vous voir.
Super.
Merci d'être venu.
But I love that. It's not even recording anymore, you're just holding it.
No, it's actually recording. I wanna like... No, recording this. No, like...
That's great. Oh, yes.
Actually, I was going like to put it somewhere.
Right. Oh, go put it.
You know what? Like I'm just because like I feel like stupid like this.
I'm
Hold on.
going to. I love posting.
Okay.
I'm gonna post it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking like Kenya.
Yes, that's right. Because my boyfriend has AIDS.
There you go.
He's constantly and he went to animal and his age is just like and he does that multiple times.
My dad we have a similar situation with my dad who has a presentation in Montreal. So everything.
Yeah, heart is really effective. So you can detect that before it happens, so they can, because he doesn't drink enough fluids, and then it
So the thing is that it takes the problem
like a warning.
Yeah. The problem with the medical area, it takes time to validate it and then get an FDA approval to become in a
so
market.
yeah,
Now
not
we are in a-
regulated.
Yes, not yet, but we don't want to be in the market without any FDA. So we definitely want to go to the FDA and be in the market in terms of engines.
So you kind of get away with it a little bit, like modify, like hey, maybe it's good for you to do this and that, not just
No, we can sell some.
Senden anladım.
I don't shake hands.
No, it's okay.
So the thing that we could sell it without FDA and not claim it as a medical device, but then what's the difference between us and Chinese watch claim that measuring the blood pressure, like it's not measuring, they give a random signal, random number to the patient. Or if you don't get FDA approval, to be very similar to other smartwatches. So we want to be as a medical device to see that these numbers are accurate and mean something. And not one jump around.
That's cool. Oh, I like it. So you're into like that. Oh, nice. Okay. Are you raising money?
Yeah, not me. We are in a C fund. Yeah, we are looking for angel investors, but we see they expect too much in Canada. They want a patent and validation and the algorithm inside the watch which is working properly and manufactured and FDA certification. And then my question, and then why we need your money?
Yeah, if
you've got all of them.
Are you going to reach out to us?
Yeah.
They take more.
Yeah, more flexible. Yeah. The problem with the issues that come up with our device mainly since that it's hardware and wearable, they right away compare us to it's not going to happen unless that. But anyways, we are going to Boston or DC for signing in summer for 6 weeks to test the market there.
Yeah.
And then we can see what's
That's cool. I mean, wish you the best of luck. If you need any help, any communications or branding, I actually just launched my company last month. I'll send you a message. And container dropped. So
you're gonna message me, so I'll find you. Yeah, you can add me in LinkedIn as well.
If you need illustrations, I'm actually like a PhD in illustration, but I decided to, like make people simplify information, make audiences.
My husband keeps saying, and you know what, you're a very good photographer. Forget your company, go as a photographer. That's my baby. I cannot sell.
No.
Yeah.
No, I just hired a graphic designer. Because I was having challenges like explaining like super complex stuff. And then you just have like only a couple of minutes to explain yourself to raise millions of dollars. The risk that you go through and then just have one illustration or a video and just let them get it like that, you know. That's the whole like logic behind it. But yeah, hopefully, things will work out for you. I'll just message you on LinkedIn. Take care.
این پروداکت خودتون
نه صفر سرش نباشه.
بعد رسیده به مرحله تولید پروداکت
الان با منیفکچرینگ که یه منیفکچرینگ رو پیدا کردیم تا حالا خودمون 50 تا تولید کردیم 45 تاش رو
با چه قیمتی می‌فروشید؟
600 دلار به ریسرچر این یوزری که میشیم بهش برای منیفکچرینگ الان قیمتی که با منیفکچرینگ که این آیدی سرتیفیکیشن برای خودمون در
بعد دیتایی که میگیرین باید سیف میشه برای شما سیف میشه یا برای
الان توی فیزی که هستیم مموری و الان کلاود نداریم از قصد کلاود نداریم بلکه الان ما اینا رو به مدیکال داکترها می‌فروشیم مدیکال داکتر اصلا بخواد اپیکال اپرووال بگیرن کلاود داستان داره یعنی کلی چیزی که داره مموری
خودتون قابلیت این دارید که ترانسفر کنید اطلاعاتش رو توی پرسونال کامپیوتر خودتون و هیچ فعلا هیچ ریسکی ندارید. البته حرفایی که میزدن درست بود. من ریسرچ رو میدیدم الان نیستم نه توی زمینه حرفایی که میزدن درست بود و توی درست که عملی تصمیماتی که مربوط به شرکت‌ها محدود کردن قدرتمندا که بتونن ابیوز نکنن از این سیستم هایی که اطلاعاتی که در ازشون دارن من برمیگردم معمولا واقعا اینقدر قوی و نیست
من خودم کورساشو دوست دارم
و اینم
آره کاملا قبولم ولی
چون وقتی پای پول میاد وسط بیزینس عوض میشه
نه آخه نکتهش اینه که گنده هایی که باید دیتا رو بگیرن تو میگیرن انیمه گاورمنت حالا یا با انتسه یا بیه ولی این استارتاپا که چیزهای
ولی خب بیشتر کانسرن اونا کانسرن جنرال بود تا کانسرن کوچیک شما بیشتر روی اسکیلی که حرف زدین اسکیل پروداکتایی بود که بتونه کمک کنه به اونا روی بیشتر اسکیل بزرگتر دقیقا ولی خب آفرین واقعا تبریک امیدوارم که حالا بیاد به بازار با شکل شماده قشنگ
100% این الان برای ریسرچر هر چی میبینم خیلی زشته
خواستم یه نظر بدم از نظر کسی که زاویه خارجی
نه این کاملا
ولی من الان دوستایی تو شرکت‌هایی دارم که همین رو دارن لباس دارن
و اتفاقا امروز با یکی از
خیلی کانکشن داره ولی شما اگه یه ذره رشد کنید همه اتفاقی که مثلا یه ذره برید بالا بزرگشید میان یا بخرنتون یا اینکه زمین دارید این رسیدی خودتون توفیق دارید
آره کلا همه که ما هر زمین داریم آروم میزنیم
آره ولی سعی کنید قبل از که این پاوا بیفته یا با کانکشن یا با خودتون به یه لولی برسونید که راحت اتفاق نیست یعنی اگر اتفاق بیفته حداقل یه بنفیتی ازش بگیرید باشه این قاعده بیزینس امروز جهان هست بازم خیلی تبریک میگم خوشحالم
Amazing job, so great. Feel free to go whenever you want. You don't have to stay. What time? I'll have 8:20. Oh, is that your
daughter?
Oh my God!
Yeah, she got a fever this morning, so I have to go right
No,
now.
go. You don't have to stay. Totally go.
Okay, great.
You see, it's recording you right online.